Hey babes, I'm Marisa, and this is Balance and Bloom, a safe space where we connect with Black women and celebrate how they are balancing life's demands while blooming into their full potential. Today, I am super excited to sit down with Priscilla Agyeman. She is the brilliant mind and the soft spirit behind Saddie Baddies and the host of the Soft Life with Saddie Baddies podcast. Through her storytelling and advocacy, she continues to carve out a space for rest, reflection, and radical honesty in a world that often overlooks the mental health of Black and multiracial communities. If you're curious about how she weaves softness into strategy and creativity into community, let's get into it. Let's jump right into the first set of questions I have here. How do you personally define balance these days, and how has that changed over time?
For me, balance has always been about prioritizing self-care and wellness. I do think that balance is sometimes a challenge, especially when you have so many different hats that you wear and so many different roles that you play. So honestly, I just try to seek out a space for myself every day where I can ground myself and be present. And I think that's what's changed for me day by day. When I was younger, I put a lot of pressure on
Mhm,
myself to have it all at the same time, and be the best sister, be the best daughter, the best employee, the best founder, all the different titles. And I realize over time I really can't control that outcome all the time. So yeah, I've just been allowing myself
mhm,
to have a moment at least every day of stillness or meditation. And sometimes that meditation is while I'm working out, sometimes it's while I'm taking
mhm,
a shower, but just creating that soft
mhm.
moment throughout the day is what helps me to balance myself to bring me back to the present moment.
And would you say that you previously had perfectionistic tendencies?
Oh,
Just
yes,
given all of the things you
definitely.
were talking about, you wanted to be the best at,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely
Hmm.
had perfectionistic tendencies. And even since I was a child, I struggled with perfectionism. I think there were some underlying
Mm,
things too. Like, as I got older, I got to learn a little bit more about like people who are neurodivergent. And I definitely fall in that category. So I do think there were
hmm,
some underlying reasons why I was so fixated on certain things.
hmm,
But I think perfectionism is a title that I do not wear anymore. And I'm happy to say that because
hmm,
it's not realistic. It's also just forcing yourself to fit into a space or to fit into an environment or this type of behavior that is just not sustainable. So I really focus
mm,
more on building sustainable ecosystems to help myself and the people around me thrive rather than fixating on
hmm.
doing things in a perfect way.
I was having this conversation with my sister this morning, and basically she was aligning it with what's the thief of joy? Comparison. We were talking about comparison and
Comparison.
how it's just
Yeah.
stopping her do everything and just trying to figure out different ways to kind of shake that off. And similar to you, I wouldn't align myself with having issues with perfectionism anymore. I don't fixate on things anymore, but I don't know whether it was an age thing that happened or whether I actually
Yeah.
did something differently, but yeah, it's definitely something to celebrate overcoming. You were speaking to the softer moments that you have throughout the day. What
hmm
would an entire soft day look like for you if you had no meetings or obligations?
Oh my gosh, I crave that. I feel like even on my days off, I'm trying to play catch up a lot of times, so it never really feels like a full day of relaxation. At some point, I always have to end up doing
Mm,
something. But a full soft day
yeah.
for me would be waking up slowly without an alarm. I think it would be the first thing.
Mm,
And just having an openness throughout the day, like not being rigid about where the day takes me, allowing myself to kind of
mhm,
fall into serendipity and fall into things that only happen when you are freeing yourself and opening yourself up to, the universe to take you there. I think a lot of those moments
mhm,
happen a lot especially when in New York, where I live, it's very easy to have your day start as something like, hey, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop, and then you end up going to a concert and then seeing your favorite artist. Like that's just very
Right.
like I think every New Yorker's had that experience of like, oh wait, I just ended up here. I don't know how I ended up here, but I had a good time. That's
Mm-hmm.
very much like
Mm-hmm.
how I think we approach fun. But yeah, soft day for me looks like a slow morning, definitely catching up with loved ones. I definitely would want to
Yeah.
start the day alone though. I think starting the day with
Mm-hmm.
a solid foundation of spending time intentionally with myself, working on, just things that I am passionate about, like some of my hobbies,
Mm-hmm.
or just doing some introspective work. And
Mm-hmm.
just allowing myself to relax and not have to feel obligated to be somewhere, do something at a certain time, and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
letting go of the time constraints. So I think it's more about how that day would feel
Mm-hmm.
rather than it being
Yeah.
planned out to a T, right?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I would probably go ahead and just not look at my phone.
Yes, that
Um,
too.
that would be
The phone would
wonderful.
be somewhere else. Yes, I would have my phone like locked
Exactly.
away and just be on do not
Mm-hmm.
disturb the whole day. And I'm like, if you're here with me in person, then we'll have a good time and we'll be to experience it. But if you're not, you'll see it later, when I do a
Or if
recap.
not, catch you later.
Yeah,
Catch you on the
yep,
flip, as my sister
yeah.
says. When you think about your healing journey, what season of your life do you feel taught you the most about yourself
Oh
so
wow.
far?
That's such a good question. I think for me the part of my healing journey is when I got out of survival mode. I think when I
Mm,
transitioned from being in survival mode to being in a space of really living and really appreciating my life, being present, being able to experience the fullness of what it means to be in your body and be present, that's really when things shifted for me because instead of me just absorbing all of the things that were happening to me on a spiritual level, emotional, all of those things, I allowed myself to transmute that into
mhm,
creativity, into self-expression, into deepening my connections with the people around me, especially the women in my life. Like I have such beautiful and
mhm,
genuine female friendships, which I'm so blessed to have. I don't have any mean girls in my circle. Like there's no like weird energy. We're
mhm.
all applauding and clapping for each other and supporting each other and helping one another. I really
I
have
love
built like a
that.
beautiful sisterhood. And I think that didn't happen until I got out of that survival mode. Because I noticed that when I was in survival
Mm,
mode, my relationships were definitely more fragmented. And now they
yeah.
feel so full and so rich. And I feel it now, especially because I'm actually getting married in just a couple of months. And so, like, I see how the
Oh,
women, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm having my wedding and I see how the women in my life have just like stepped up to support me, even though I'm I guess like kind of like the low maintenance bride. I'm like, oh, it's okay. Like we don't have to do this. Like I remember my friend was like, oh, what are we doing for your bachelorette? I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to have one. She's like, what are you talking about? We're definitely having one. We're gonna
girl,
do one. I know. And I was like, okay,
100%.
yeah. So it's funny because I feel like sometimes when you are the person that is like you are the glue or you're like the mother of the group, you don't want to like
Mm,
demand too much of people's time, but it's like no, that's I don't need to shrink myself around my friends. They want to uplift me, they want to celebrate me, like let me allow that to happen. We always talk about being receptive
mhm,
in male and female dynamics, especially with dating or relationships, but we don't really always talk about how to
mhm,
be receptive among other women and how to like accept that love and that support. And that's also being in your feminine energy, is allowing people to
yeah.
celebrate you and being receptive to that. So, yeah, I think definitely getting out of survival mode helped me to be softer and helped me to be more
Mhm.
grateful and grounded in my purpose for sure.
I love everything that you just said. And I don't know whether I read it or whether it was said to me or something I
Hmm.
saw on Instagram about friends want you to give them the opportunity to show up. Like, don't take it away from them before they've even got the
Yes.
opportunity.
Yes.
So, yeah, it is difficult, I think, as Black women specifically to lean
Yeah.
into that receptivity from friends or I don't know, other women.
Yeah. Hmm.
But when we do, it's so beautiful. It just feels
Yes.
so good, you know?
Absolutely.
When was the last time you felt in bloom, or are you at that point right now, even if there's a lot going on? Because, like you said, you've got a lot on your plate, but do you still feel
Yeah.
like simultaneously things are going the way you want them to go?
Yeah, I think the last time I felt in bloom was honestly, it's right now. Like I feel I'm
Yay.
very, thank you. Yeah, I feel very connected to the seasons of nature. And right now it's spring. We are in the season of
Mm-hmm.
activation. And I will say that this was a very hard winter. For so many people I know, it was a very hard winter for me. I was
Yeah.
going through so much just on a personal level, dealing with just grief and
Mm-hmm.
changes, like just generational trauma and just a lot of deep
Mm-hmm.
shifts that were happening. And I can say I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm on the other side of that now. So I definitely feel like that the word blooming or bloom is a very good and fitting description of where I'm at right now. I feel like I've taken all of that hard work, all of that like introspection and kind of hibernating in the winter, and I've allowed that winter of my soul to end, and now
Mm-hmm.
it's time to spring back up. It's time to go see your friends. It's time to make plans. It's time to get
Mm-hmm.
cute. Like be yourself again and like remember who you are, because it's very easy to forget when you're
Mm-hmm.
in that cycle of just trying to get out of a hard time and a rut. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that's time to get ready for is your wedding. Hello.
That too, girl. I'm in the gym. Okay. I'm over here. I'm doing all the things,
Hello.
getting ready for it. So, yeah, I'm
How
excited.
exciting. Can you walk me through a moment that made you realize that Saddie Baddies was really needed? And I guess connected to that question is, was there a moment that you realized softness didn't mean weakness? From my
Mm.
understanding, Saddie Baddies started in 2019, little COVID
Yes.
baby that's
Yes.
exploded. So,
Yeah.
what was the moment that made you realize it was needed?
Yeah. Wow. So many moments. There's like so many moments running through my mind. I think one moment that really, like when you asked that question, my mind drew to one specific moment. So I'll share that. But there's been so many little micro moments. I think anytime someone shares or comments or DMs us or emails us, oh my gosh, this page is amazing. Like, this has helped me to find a therapist. It's helped me to be on my healing journey. That just is such an
Mm,
affirmation of this being my life's work.
yeah.
But I would also say when we did our in-person self-love workshop that was sponsored by Rare Beauty, and we did this in the summer of
Hmm.
2023 at a festival that's here in New York. It's like a young Gen Z slash millennial girls festival that happens every summer. And we were at
Hmm.
at that workshop doing a keynote, and this beautiful 14-year-old girl comes up to me in the parking lot. We had already gotten ready to leave, and she and her dad, flagged me down and said, "Hey, I just really wanted to say thank you. Like, I'm going to high school
Oh,
this year, and hearing you talk about self-love really," I melted. I literally started crying. I was like, "Oh my Shayla." Like, I was
yeah.
just like, I was literally like,
So
wow, this is,
cute.
literally, this is why I do what I do. It's like, her being so young and so like open and vulnerable at the same time is just so beautiful. And that just will
Mm,
always be imprinted in my memory of
yeah.
somebody feeling directly impacted by, just sharing things that are practical, that are accessible. And it's beautiful because a 14-year-old can be receptive to what we're sharing, but also someone that's in their 40s or
Mm,
older, and we have that's literally the gap of our age range ranges from young adults, like early 20s, some
hmm.
even teenagers, all the way to people like in their 30s, 40s, even 50s. And I just think that's beautiful because it's
Mm,
timeless. It's community.
yep.
It transcends time, it transcends race, gender, demographic, socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think
Mm,
that's the beauty of Saddie Baddies, is that it's for a very specific person, but at the same time it's for everybody. It's kind of like
mm.
if you get it, you get it.
Yeah. And I feel like if we're to be honest with ourselves, there will be something you can take from it. We're all
Yeah.
experiencing hardships or challenging times, or we're in touch with someone, there's a degree of separation between someone who may have mental health issues or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, and also it's across locations, geographic
Yeah.
locations, it's global, which is so wonderful as well. What has entrepreneurship taught you about your nervous system, rest, and capacity?
Ooh, well, I have learned through entrepreneurship that if you do not take a day to rest, your body will take one for you, very much so. I've been
Mm-hmm.
through several cycles of burnout, and every time it's because I was not choosing rest. I was not actively implementing rest days in my schedule because I've always had a career, a corporate career alongside building my business. I've never really had a
Mm-hmm.
full day to completely detach from anything really. So I'm very
Yeah.
intentional about carving out time for my mind, my body, my soul, and I've been doing that in a lot of different ways, but movement has been it's a kind of like replaced therapy in a lot of ways for me. I still, love
Hmm.
to go to therapy and talk to my therapist, but the autonomy that I have over my body when I'm working out is just unmatched. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
euphoric feeling because I'm genuinely taking care of my body and I'm putting it through very small phases of discomfort so that I can come out to
Mm-hmm.
be stronger, to be more healthy. And I think that's just devotion in itself. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
think that having a routine and implementing practices such as working out, drinking your water, eating healthy,
Mm-hmm.
seeing your friends, making time for your loved ones, making time for yourself, taking
Mm-hmm.
yourself on solo self-care dates. Those are all, they're not
Mm-hmm.
frivolous things. This is quite literally how you create a lifestyle. And I realize that the more I take care of myself, the more my business grows and develops. When I ignore myself, when I neglect
Wow.
myself, I start noticing things are not working out, things are falling through, projects are
Mm-hmm.
slipping through the cracks. And now, the more I take care of myself, the more devoted I am to myself, everything else falls into
Mm-hmm.
place. And I cannot remember where I saw this, but somebody I shared this online and I really resonated with it. They were saying how entrepreneurship is quite literally like it's a self-reflective journey. Like who you are as an entrepreneur oftentimes is how you see yourself. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times for anyone who's an entrepreneur, when we are going through our highs and lows, a lot of times it mirrors or it parallels what our business is going through as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes it can be the opposite where you're putting in a lot of energy and you're not seeing the return on investment, or the
Yeah.
opposite where, you're putting in very little. I don't know how many people put in no effort and then they get a high reward. Everyone I know that is entrepreneurs, they're working their asses off, okay? So we're all working our ass off,
We're
but
going hard.
we're all going hard, especially Black women. Okay, scratch that. Everyone I know is going
Mm-hmm.
hard. So I will say that I do find that there's similarities between how much I'm taking care of myself and how free flowing and how abundant my business feels. So I've learned to take care of myself and not think that it's
Mm-hmm.
like secondary to growing or
Yeah.
achieving anything. It is very much the cornerstone of being successful, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Yeah.
Wow, I never actually thought of that correlation at all. When you were speaking
Yeah.
about, the gym, and I know the kind of physical and mental correlation that that obviously has, but
Yeah.
the entrepreneurship to potentially being a mirror of how you're feeling on the inside, I literally never considered that
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really because when you think about it, your entrepreneur, like somebody who's an entrepreneur, someone who's a business owner or has a business or what have you, they are putting themselves out into the world, period. Whether you are a faceless
Mm-hmm.
account and you never show your face on online or on your website,
Mm-hmm.
your socials, or whether you have other people working for you, no matter what, you're putting some type of product out or some type of idea out into the world for other people to receive
Mm-hmm.
it. That takes a certain level of vulnerability in order
For
to
sure.
have any type of response to that, whether it's a podcast or, maybe
Mm-hmm.
you are a service provider, whatever it is, you are relying
Mm-hmm.
on other people and you're relying on God and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
your source to give you the resources to sustain whatever it is you're doing. You know, even if you're not getting
Yeah.
paid for your work, like I know a lot of creatives are like, okay, well, I have this page or I'm doing this, I'm not getting paid for it yet. But what you're doing in exchange, you're exchanging your time for connection. You're exchanging your time and your
Mm-hmm.
energy for, opportunities or visibility or whatever it is. Sometimes it's not a monetary
Mm-hmm.
exchange. So I do think that there's a lot of truth
True.
in the correlation or the parallels between our inner journey and our journey as
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs or business people because they definitely connect. It really does make sense that the self
They do.
concept that you have as a person directly affects how your business is run. Like whatever happened to that pink mayonnaise girl, who knows? But if you know what I'm talking about, that was such a weird moment in TikTok. I was like, what is going on? But she made money off that because you
What
know
the
why?
hell?
She was delusional enough to believe like, okay, this is gonna
Mm.
work. I don't care if this is a biohazard. I'm gonna put this on the shelf and that's it. And people are gonna buy it, and they did. And they did. So if you bought it,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
shade. I'm just saying that's risky. So yeah.
Little bit.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we're currently in a cultural shift when it comes to how Black women view mental health?
Yes, absolutely. I think now we have so many examples of women and businesses and people, just so many different representations of mental health and mental health awareness, and not just
Yeah.
mental health in the scope of like, oh, positive affirmations and do you feel good? It's like we are seeing people who are like, hey, I have borderline personality disorder. This is what a day in my life looks like. Hey, I have bipolar
Mm-hmm.
disorder. I have CPTSD. I have, people who are really dealing with very real mental health issues and diagnosis and are moving
Mm-hmm.
through the world with grace. They're still moving through the world with softness. They're building community. I've never seen so many neurodivergent Black women in representation in my life. And it's very
Mm-hmm.
affirming because as someone who also is on the journey to being officially diagnosed as
Yeah.
neurodivergent or, on the spectrum of being neurodivergent because it ranges, I
Mm-hmm.
am just like, wow, I think it's beautiful to see so much representation. And yeah, it's beautiful to see how much range we have too. Not everybody's into
Mm-hmm.
journaling. Not everybody's into the crystals. Not everybody's into this. Some people are just like, no, that's not my thing. Like I'm, talking about
Mm-hmm.
mental health in a way that is relatable to me and resonates with my audience and my community. And if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, then I'm positive that you can find someone else who can resonate deeper
Mm.
with you.
100%. And how has your understanding of mental health evolved since starting Saddie Baddies?
I'm realizing so much more that mental health is by and large, a lot of it is comes down to a few pillars. And those pillars being financial health, physical health, your
Mm-hmm.
spiritual health, and I also think your creativity is like its own pillar. And I think my mental health journey has been very interesting and very nonlinear, but I will say that financial health is probably the most overlooked aspect of our mental health. Like, you cannot, I've said this many times, but you cannot budget your way out of depression. So many people are quite literally struggling to get by day. They're wondering why they feel terrible. You're wondering why you're depressed. You're wondering why you can't get out of bed. It's like, yeah, girl, I would be too if you are down bad. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard to
Mm.
motivate yourself to be productive, be creative, do the things like keep up with your goals when you're struggling financially. And I think, especially in this economy now,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the States, it's very easy for people to overlook that and just skip over the financial health and go, well, what are you doing wrong? Why are you not saying your affirmations? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not drinking your water and all of this? When somebody is down bad financially, you can't overlook that aspect of their wellness journey or their healing journey because if your basic needs are not being met or they are being met but it's with a lot of compromise or with a lot of stress, you cannot sink into
Mm.
the flow of your creativity or the flow of the other aspects of your health and the pillars of your health when one of the biggest ones, how you sustain your livelihood, is not addressed or not
Mm-hmm.
taken care of. And I think we just need to have more of a realistic conversation about it. Like, I think when we're talking about wellness or mental health, it should not be in a vacuum. It should also be, sometimes we need to be very specific about who we're talking about. Like, are you talking to people who are high earners? If you are, that's okay, but say that. If you're
Mm-hmm.
talking to someone who
Yeah.
is more low income, or someone who's a student, or someone who is a working mother, or, an
Mm-hmm.
independent parent, or somebody who relies on, like, I think we need to be a little bit more
Yeah.
specific about who we're addressing, because when you're sharing information that's a little bit too general, people can take it as like, okay, well, I can't hire someone to come clean my house. Am I not living a
Mm.
soft life? Or I can't hire someone to do this. Does that mean I'm not doing it right?
Yeah.
What is it wrong with me? And I think that's the main issue I have right now with mental health content, is that it's geared towards
Mm.
certain people, but you're not saying the quiet part out loud. And I think it's
Yeah.
okay for you to have a specific audience, but I do think it's important to name it, so that people are not feeling like there's something wrong with them fundamentally, when they're really just struggling and they
Mm-hmm.
need to focus on
Yeah.
more so that part of their healing financially, so that they can get from survival mode to they're thriving. I've been there before. I've been in a phase where I was not making a lot of money. I was struggling
Mm-hmm.
financially, and I really couldn't live beyond just the bare minimum of what I needed. And
Yeah.
it was very hard for me to relate to influencers and podcasters and content creators that were really trying to showcase a certain lifestyle that just wasn't relatable to me. And I stopped consuming that
Mm-hmm.
content, and then I really focused on honestly getting a better job so that I could get out of that predicament. And I did
Yeah.
eventually. I was like, all right, well, now, okay, I have a little bit more cushion. I have a little more savings. Like, all right, I can maybe, start working on my wardrobe that I want to have, or move into a better apartment, or do whatever that's going to help me to
Mm-hmm.
feel a little bit better. And then when I'm ready, I can get back to consuming content about, you know, somebody that's on their journey and going to Pilates and and just living a
Mm-hmm.
very leisurely life. Like, maybe it's still not
Yeah.
fully relatable, but at least it feels more entertainment versus, oh, this feels like this is like
The
doesn't
comparison.
feel exactly comparison.
Yeah.
Right. Until you can get to a point where you
Mm-hmm.
stop comparing yourself and it feels like, this doesn't feel right, or I feel shame around whatever it is that you're consuming, that's probably a sign that it's just not for you right now. And you should
Right.
maybe like refocus your attention on other things that can help you to get closer to where you need to be.
I agree with you, but I was going to say I don't like this kind of sub thought that I was having while you were speaking, that sometimes I feel like some of this is by design, you know? It's
Mm,
by design to keep the
yeah,
disparity and keep people
yeah,
on this kind of wheel of, I don't even know what to call it. And
yeah,
yeah, it's just I do feel like that's a thing as well. Social media is an interesting place. It has so many
yeah,
advantages, yet so many disadvantages as well. And
yeah,
I encourage people to unfollow pages that are not
yeah,
it. I've
yeah,
certainly done that. I do that actually regularly, to be honest
yeah,
with you. I'll like
same.
audit
Yeah,
who I'm following and be like, do we still
yeah,
align? And if not, bye.
yep. It's your page, it's your life, it's your account. You are the only person that's in charge of what you want to consume. And if you are seeing things that don't resonate with
Mm-hmm.
you, you have every right to keep it moving. You don't have to subscribe, literally, you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to any forms of ideals that are just don't resonate with you. If it's not motivating you, then leave it out, right? For some people, it's motivating. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I like that. It encourages me. But if you don't have that visceral reaction, then you probably should take a pause
Mm-hmm.
and reevaluate if that's what you want to keep
Mm-hmm.
consuming.
And now moving on to your podcast, the Soft Life Pod.
Yes.
How does this creative outlet differ from the other parts of your work?
So the Soft Life podcast is really a love letter, and I think it's an ongoing love letter to specifically women who are in the earlier parts of their healing journey. However, it also is a love letter to our higher self and our future self at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
because every single episode, whether it's a solo episode or a guest episode, every episode really addresses a real problem or a real issue. We're not just talking about things that are surface level or superficial. We're really talking about very, relatable and topics that resonate deeply
Mhm.
with the people who listen. And so we address the reality, but we also create solution. We create a world where opportunity and hope is alive. We create a
Yeah.
world at this podcast in the virtual microcosm that it is. We've created a world where,
Mhm.
yes, let's talk about generational healing. Let's talk about, we just dropped an episode about reparenting. And, we're talking about how reparenting is really the process of reclaiming your autonomy from your parents or your
Mhm.
caregivers and rewriting your rules on your own terms so that you're not giving your power away willfully just because you don't know how to
Mm.
set boundaries or you don't know how to create systems that can help you thrive, right? Instead of saying,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
when I grew up, my mom didn't, she never cooked healthy food, so I don't know how to cook healthy food. Like, girl, there is a
Yeah.
million TikToks that can teach you how to do that now. That's not an excuse anymore. You need to reparent,
Mm.
right? Like you need to
Yeah.
be hold yourself accountable sometimes because when we give too much of our power away to our caregivers or people who were responsible for raising us, we really start to leave out so much of our own agency. So
Mhm.
the Soft Life podcast really is
Mhm.
about addressing both and. It's not about just becoming your higher self and being that girl and only focusing on this kind of idealistic vision of ourselves. We're really
Yeah.
talking about things like, okay, what happened? How do we get here? Is really the whole point of that. And I think
Mm.
we do this in a lot of ways, and that separates us from our other content that we have on Instagram, as well as Talk and other social media platforms and outlets we have, because the podcast is really probably as candid as we'll ever get. As candid as you can be,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
there's always going to be a level of preparation before you share anything on the internet, even if it's live, right? So
Mhm.
I think there's a certain candidness to the podcast that I think is refreshing. I think I'm a little bit
Yeah.
more vulnerable. I'm definitely more vulnerable. I do have quite a bit of Scorpio placement, so I am a pretty
Mhm.
private person, I would say,
Mhm.
but I am more vulnerable for sure on the podcast. And I think that's what creates that softness and that relatability is because I'm bearing
Yeah.
a little bit more of my soul. And then the guests that we have are also bearing, parts of themselves as well, which we really
Mhm.
appreciate. And that vulnerability is a gift and it's sacred. So I use it wisely. I don't think you should feel
Mhm.
you have to give away your entirety of your story or overshare,
No.
in order just to make a connection to people. So, yeah, we still are deeply connected and really love the community that we
Mhm.
have on the podcast. So, I mean, you are a podcaster, so you know how it is with podcasting. It's very intimate and it's very
Mm.
dynamic. So, you really have to love doing it. It's also a lot of hard work. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. But it's rewarding these kinds of conversations and speaking to people such as yourself who truly understand. But even if you're not also a podcaster, just
Yeah.
getting to know people and connecting. And I think it's one of the ways, especially as I'm a remote worker and I do make time to go outside every day, but it's like it gives me a feeling like I'm in the
Yeah.
office a little bit because I'm
Yeah.
actually communicating with someone that's not quite a meeting that I'm obligated to
Yeah.
do, but something that I
Right.
actually want to do. So
Voluntary.
I
Yeah.
enjoy this part of it. Exactly, exactly. And you spoke a little bit about, not spoke to it, but you mentioned,
Hmm.
the prep that might go in before a podcast or whatever.
Hmm.
Speaking of, do you have a ritual or a vibe that you create before
Hmm.
you record an episode?
Yes. So I'm a crystal girl. I love me some crystals and I love using crystals, just not the crystals themselves holding this power, but just more the intention that you can share when
Mm.
you do work with crystals. So I have a few crystals that are purposely really good for communication. One of them being like a lapis. It's like a blue stone. It's really beautiful. Amethyst as well
Oh.
for clarity and
Hmm.
intuition, rose quartz for self love and speaking from the heart. I like to do some just very quick meditation before I start sharing. And prior to that, the
Hmm.
actual writing portion of it, I was actually listening to a video from one of our favorite guests that we've had on the podcast. Her name is Alex Wolf, and she's an author. The definition of a multi-hyphenate, but recently she shared a video on YouTube about how to write a book, like how to actually start writing a book because she's an author and she's a self-published author. And she was sharing how one aspect of writing is understanding the difference between writing and editing, and not to write and edit at the same time. And when you're writing, to just write, even if there's typos, even if there's mistakes, and then go back and edit so that you're getting the most raw and authentic output of what you want to share. And I do this here and there, but a lot of times I am editing and writing at the same time. So something that
Mm,
I've been doing more lately is just writing without editing, and the writing is so much more rich and vulnerable and more dynamic because I'm
mm,
not editing myself out. So I just think that practice of being able
mm-hmm.
to flow and not forcing myself
Yeah.
to cut things out just because I feel like it's not perfect. Again, that
Mm-hmm.
anti-perfectionism. But yeah, and I love, lighting a candle or lighting some incense and just creating a good open space for me to share because it's such a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
practice. And yeah, I probably have a few other rituals that I like to do, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. And just on the flow part, as you were talking
Hmm.
about that, I was thinking of, they say when you get up in the morning, just start writing.
Morning
Just start writing. Maybe
pages,
try and write a couple
yeah,
pages.
yeah.
Just do it. And you read it and you're like, oh my goodness,
Right.
that's
You're
the
like
contents of
I had
my
a lot to
brain right
say. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And just similar to Alex, I'm also a writer and I've written a few books. I'm a ghostwriter,
Hmm.
and it is
That's
that
awesome.
process of stepping away
Yeah.
before your eyes turn square, first of all. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's important to step away, and it's interesting because it's almost easier for me sometimes to write for others than it is to write for myself because I feel maybe
Mm.
that's where the self-judgment comes in more, or
Yeah.
I'm wanting to essentially get it right the first time, be perfect the first time. But usually the first time, if I write it the first time without editing it,
Yeah.
is actually the best, if
Yeah.
that makes sense, the most authentic.
Yeah.
What do you hope people feel when they listen to your podcast or scroll through your content, your blog,
Hmm.
your website? What are you hoping that they take from it?
I would love for anybody that comes across anything, Saddie Baddies content, the podcast, I would love for them to just feel seen. I would love for them to walk away feeling like, wow, this space or this piece or whatever it is they're consuming, this makes me feel seen. I feel
Mhm.
validated. I feel enlightened. I even if it's just to make you laugh, like because we love our silly little mood boards and stuff that just have kind of like your intrusive thoughts. Like I'm like once a week we got to share our intrusive thoughts, and like sometimes they're really edgy, and like people are like, oh my god, this is hilarious. And then other times people are like, oh my gosh, like I really needed to see this. So yeah, I mean that's the whole point. It's a
Mhm.
saddie. You're a saddie baddie, right? You're not just always gonna be sad, and sometimes you're gonna
Mhm.
use humor to cope. Like humor is definitely one of my coping mechanisms.
Mhm.
Like I love like just laughing
Mm.
my way through some bullshit. So I really want people to
Right?
feel, yeah, no, I mean we have to. I have to, otherwise we'll just
Mm.
fall apart. But yeah, I love to use
Mhm.
humor and like relatability, pop culture. I love to use
Mhm.
different references. I mean, honestly, I'm a nerd, like truly, really and truly like a nerd deep down. And I
Mm.
love using a lot of different references from sci-fi to tech to art to, music references
Mhm.
to documentaries and historical and just
Mhm.
so many different references. And my sources of inspiration are really, really wide. So I love to just infuse a little bit of that playfulness and that wonder and that curiosity. Sometimes I'll watch a movie and then it makes me think about something else, and then I end up writing a Substack or a podcast that's based
Mhm.
loosely around this thread that started getting me thinking and whatnot. So I really just want people
Mhm.
to feel like I want them to feel seen. I want them to feel like this is a soft space
Yeah.
for you. I want them to know that whatever you're going through, you're not alone, because I can almost guarantee that someone else or someone around you can relate
Mhm.
and is willing to listen. So, that's how we, really build our collective healing is through that connectivity and being the connective tissue for healing.
And what's one thing about you that people often misunderstand because of how well you carry your load?
Oh, girl. Something that people, I'm getting better at this. I used to be really bad at asking for help, like very bad at asking for help. But now I think because
Mm,
of this, the people that I have around me, they know, like,
yeah.
they know to not just take my answer at face value sometimes. Like sometimes they're like, sometimes I'll breeze
Yeah.
over. I'll be like, oh yeah, like even like, I hurt my wrist, as you know, recently, and it's fine now, it's
Mm-hmm.
healing. But everyone's been like, how's your wrist? Are you okay? Is it healing? Are you good? I'm like, yes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
good, I'm good. I promise. Like, okay. Do you need me to drop anything off? I'm like, no, I got it. I'm good. And I just think
Oh.
I'm learning to not be hyper independent. I don't think I always look like what I'm going through, And I think sometimes when I am a little
Mm,
bit more distant or maybe a little bit more quiet on social media, it's not that I'm always going through something. I think a lot of times too, people think that I'm more extroverted than I am. I am actually very
mm,
much an introvert. I need a lot of time to recharge.
mm-hmm.
I love being alone. I love
Yep.
solitude. It's my favorite thing. And I think people
Mm-hmm.
assume that I'm more extroverted because I do like to talk to people. I am a people person, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I am very much okay with being solo and just doing my own thing and just being weird and on my
Mm-hmm.
own. So I think sometimes it's kind of weird, like I said, being a Sagittarius and having that sun energy, like liveliness, that warmth, the
Mm.
warmth that people feel, but then also being a Scorpio moon and rising, which is like, ooh, privacy, like to be
I'm gonna need my
alone.
space. Yeah.
Exactly. I need my space. I need, to regroup and all of that. And yeah, sometimes I feel like they're all like fighting each other. My big three, they're just jumping each other, just like pop, pop, pop. So sometimes I'm just like, damn, I'm just a walking contradiction. But, people have crazier placements. Some people
Mm,
are triple
mm, true,
Scorpios
true.
or something else crazy. So
Mm.
yeah.
Well, you do wear it well. I will say
Thank you.
that. I will say that. If
Thank
you could go
you.
back to 2019, no worries. If you could go back to 2019 or even say baby Priscilla during a hard
Hmm.
time, what would you say to yourself with all of the knowledge you've amassed now? What would you say to baby P?
Ooh, I would tell her to never stop being exactly who she is because I think the 5-year-old me was so cool and so outspoken
Oh.
and very just didn't give a damn. I got written up for talking too much multiple times. Like I was just a yapper. I came out yapping. Like no wonder I have a podcast. Like I just been yapping since day one. And
Right.
so I would tell her to never lose that though. I think that's a superpower. It's actually, yeah, that's why I can go to
Hmm.
panels and I can be a keynote speaker and I can literally
Yeah.
get paid to talk because I've been yapping my whole life.
Hmm.
So I think, especially in African culture, it's like usually when you have a kid or a child that's very talkative and very outgoing, sometimes they, want to kind of dim that a little bit so you're not so
Mm,
out there. And, there's just kind of like this little bit of fear and this desire to shelter you when
mm.
you're younger, at least in my experience. So I'm glad I never lost that. I'm glad I never stopped being
Yeah.
myself. And I'm so happy that never stopped being curious. I was always extremely curious,
Hmm.
very artistic, like literally drawing on the walls in my house. And my parents would be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, get your ass off. I'll get your crayons and get your ass back in. Like, I
Yeah.
literally was like, just, I was like a ball of creativity. And I would talk to my dolls and just always this, I don't know, I was in my own little world, my own little universe. And I feel like I'm still very much am
Mm,
in that little like mini verse. And I think that's where your creativity is. So I'm glad I never lost that despite, the allegations of me being a disruptor in class and all the things. I'm glad I still kept true to who I am and not, dim that light or make any major changes personality wise. So,
yeah.
I'm proud of that.
I love that. And thank God you didn't lose it. Or else what would I be listening to?
I know.
Excuse me. I need to I need to plug into my podcast. Thank you.
I know. We wouldn't be here right
Last
now.
exactly. Last one. It's a little wild card. What's your alter ego's name and what's her vibe? Who's the Scorpio? What's her name?
Ooh, okay. For some reason, I used to work at a hospital, and one of the doctors used
Mm-hmm.
to always call me Penelope for some reason. And at first I was like, my name is Priscilla, but then I was like, Loki, I love the name Penelope. So I kind of feel like
Oh.
Penelope she's like the office siren. She's like a nerd, and she
Mm-hmm.
knows how to code. She's like a software engineer, but also is like a painter at night or something. Like she's a complete like, polar opposite split personality. I think Penelope is, she's definitely not fucking around. She has a very dark sense of humor, but she also gets things done. She gets the job done. People
Yep.
trust her, she has a great wardrobe. And yeah, I think that's the alter ego. I think when I need to tap in and lock in, I'm like, let me channel my inner Penelope and let me get this done.
Let me
So
yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
And is Penelope in New York or is she in another city?
Oh, I think she's in a different city. I think maybe she's in Tokyo
Oh,
on a special
Tokyo.
project. Tokyo Drift kind of vibe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's international. She's doing other things. She's like, yeah, New York is home base, but she's got like other projects in different cities.
Hmm.
So, yeah, maybe she's a spy. Who knows? But yeah, I love that. I need to really actually like develop that like alter ego persona. That could be fun.
I think it would be fun. Final question. Where can we find you on the socials and any websites?
Yes. Oh, so I actually just launched my official personal website, PriscillaAgyeman.com. Yeah, so that's my personal website, and you can see more of my work beyond Saddie Baddies and just kind of a little bit more about my background, my corporate background, my skill set, and also services that I
Hmm.
offer. And then SaddieBaddies.com, of course, will also have all of our social media. So I'll just give you the websites for now. I think everything else will
Hmm.
be tied into it. Our Substack, I will say our Substack,
Yep.
Let's Try Softer on Substack, which is my favorite outlet right now. So, yeah,
Aw, love that. Oh my gosh, Priscilla, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
of course. I love this conversation and I'm so happy to meet you.
Yay. Lovely to meet you too. Have a good rest of your afternoon, girl.
Thank you.